All right. Angry Bears Fan Podcast, episode 98. Before I get into it again, like, follow, subscribe, keep helping us grow. We got some crazy growth this year. We want to keep that going. Bears beat the Packers finally, even though it was against the backups. All the backups on off, some of the backups on offense. Defense, a lot of the starters were out there. Pretty meaningless game. Cost us what, 3 draft spots? Probably nothing crazy. I mean, probably not going to miss out on anybody we really wanted. Um, but
No, they needed the win for, at least some kind of
silver
momentum going
lining,
into
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
going into the off season. I mean, realistically, you think about it this way, man, the Bears are a blocked field goal away from sweeping the pack this year.
I,
Um, you
I,
know,
was, I thought that too, but then I was looking at the Packers are 1-5 in the division. They
yeah, but that's neither near nor here nor there. I mean, the biggest monkey on your back, sure, you want to get a division, but the biggest monkey on your back right now is the fact that you just can't beat Green Bay.
That's
Um,
true. It's like Michigan, Ohio State. They eventually
yeah,
won the national championship, but they beat Ohio State a couple years in a row, and that's really, like you said, what really mattered. Um,
Yeah, so we'll talk about the good before we get into the clown show. That's the coaching search. You brought up the game this past week, Bears Packers Lambeau Field. The starters for the Packers played most of the first half, if
yeah.
not all of the first
Well,
half.
Jordan Love, he went down the first quarter, but
No, he played longer than the first quarter. I'm pretty sure it was the
like
whole first
right,
half.
yeah, somewhere in the second quarter, he got hurt. He hurt his.
Yeah, so
Um,
because I'm assuming they pulled him too after Christian Watson tore his ACL. There, you know what I'm saying. Matt LaFleur is like,
he got hit, and they took him out, and that, but they like he warmed up at halftime, like he might come back out.
yeah, LaFleur is probably just like, yeah, no,
No,
let's
no
let's not
risk.
do
Yeah,
that. Well, plus he was warming up because Kevin Byard on that fucking on that safety blitz just completely destroyed Malik Willis.
I don't understand why we were talking about this in the preseason, and it came to fruition where we were blitzing so much in the preseason. I was like, I want to see that in the regular season, and I was like, but them doing it so much in the preseason makes me think like they don't want people to know what they're doing, and they're not going to do it. And it just like that's the new NFL too. Exotic pressure blitzes, like you said, like you've been harping. You can't just sit back in the Tampa 2 this whole time. Like, yeah, the bend don't break kind of works out. Looks good on paper when we're only giving up, you know what I mean, 21 points here, 18 points here,
Yeah.
there. But like they got the ball the whole fucking game. And it's taking away the momentum. It's like sometimes you gotta take some fucking risk, blitz some people. You see Detroit, they're down their whole fucking defense. What do? They blitz more. They don't get extra conservative. They're like, all right, you're just gonna have to. We're gonna man up, and you're gonna have to win your one-on-one matchups and play some football.
Yeah, like you said though, too, if you play that Tampa 2, that bend don't break defense, ball control wise, if you're not running the football as an offense, if you're not scoring points as an offense, it's kind of pointless because while yeah, you're holding them to field goals, you still can't score.
Yeah,
So, you need an opportunistic defense, a pressure heavy defense creates turnovers, a lot of turnovers. Yeah, you get burnt every now and then and stuff like that. But pick sixes, fumble recoveries, strip sacks, giving your offense the ball in good field position going forward. All those things are important, especially with a young rookie quarterback who, first year in the league, you gotta give him some short fields to work with. Um, but that monkey's off our back, at least for now,
yeah.
beating Green Bay in Lambeau of all places, uh, it was a good win, good morale win. I know there's no moral victories in the NFL, but this was big for, the not just the
I think
players,
it was
but
just K. I think it was
the front
mostly Caleb.
office.
Obviously, the coaches are out of there. Poles is does for a little. It looks like he won't be. But like I said, it was good for Caleb. Um, some of the other guys' confidence has just been a down year all around. DJ Moore's had basically his worst year outside of the amount of catches, but worst like his base sensitive rookie, worst year in yards, worst year in touchdowns. Keenan Allen. I mean, I won't say. I mean, he's old, but um, I've been listening to the talk radio, and Waddle pointed out something. It's just like nobody on our offense maximized their potential. Nobody was as good as they could have possibly been. We couldn't do
No,
anything with that, and that's ridiculous. Swift regressed. We're stuck with him again. And I don't think he's that bad. I just think he's the lightning tool. You know, we need a thunder. We need like he's not an
you
every
need
down
David
back.
Montgomery.
Yes. And again, what was it 2 years ago? I was saying that why would we keep David Montgomery? Like we weren't going to be paying a quarterback. We're still not paying a quarterback. I don't get why we couldn't have paid David Montgomery an extra $1 million a year. Like I
I'm
think
pretty
that
sure
was,
he's getting the same contract that
but
DeAndre
that's what
Swift
I'm
got.
saying. But yeah, but like the Bears are being cheap, and he's like, "Fuck you guys," then when
Yeah,
we could have
it's
just like this that was like Poles was trying to be Moneyball and do all these things, and I talked about this long ago, long before I knew Caleb was coming. All these things that like I don't like that. Like, yes, football's a business, but you can't always run it like a business because you need culture, you need continuity, you need people like. And if guys know that, like, oh, the Bears are just going to throw me away, Roquan, they're only All Pro they've had since fucking Urlacher and Brig. I mean, I don't know if Briggs was ever All Pro, but it's like one of the only All Pros we ever had. The only bright spot on their team. You're like, he wants a little bit too much money. We're going to trade him for a second and sign a guy for, I mean, a little bit less than he was going to make. It's like things like that. I think have come back to haunt us, and we lack culture. And now, like you said, to go onto the coaching thing, there's not much to talk about the Bears game. It was fun to watch. It was all defense. It was one special teams play. The defense played good against the backup quarterback. Um, they took Josh Jacobs out in the second or third quarter. He never came back. But it was a morale thing. Like some of the times they beat us, we've been on our backup quarterback and injuries, and you know what I mean. They took the win and they celebrated. So it was good to beat them, especially in Lambeau. And they really can't complain so much, like you pointed out too. They barely beat it. They blocked the field goal to beat us the last time. So it's one thing you can't really say. Oh well, it's the backups. Well, fuck, you know what I mean? Like we were a short block field goal away. But the coaching thing has been crazy. I
yes,
wanted to start
yes.
off with this. I want to point out that I don't really get this. Why are the Bears requesting or actually interviewing 20 fucking people?
I was that's why I called it a clown show, man. It's like it's all right. So the last coaching cycle that the Bears had when they hired Matt Eberflus, right? They only interviewed 5 people. And it's like, okay, well, we got that one completely wrong. So let's do the complete opposite and make a complete idiot out of ourselves. And let's put 16 people on a list, casting this wide net. It shouldn't be this hard.
No,
This
I agree.
this list should be 7 names. I'm gonna give the list of 13 people right now that the Bears have requested an interview. Aaron Glenn, Mike Vrabel, who's going to be in the building tomorrow, Brian Flores, Arthur Smith, Pete Carroll, who's going to be interviewing on Thursday, Ben Johnson. They did request to speak to Mike McCarthy. Dallas denied that request. Mike McCarthy is a free agent January 14th, so next Tuesday. So regardless if he doesn't sign an extension with Dallas, they'll be able to talk to him next week. Thomas Brown, Anthony Weaver, Mike Kafka, Drew Petzing, Todd Monken, and David Shaw. For those who don't know who David Shaw is, he was the Stanford head coach when Andrew Luck was playing, and he's some council person or whatever for the Denver Broncos right now. But 13 names on that list, Sean. Only 7 of them realistically need to be there. Why is Anthony Weaver on this list? I don't think I've ever heard this entire season somebody watch a Miami Dolphins game and be like, man, who's running that Miami Dolphins defense? That looks good. Why is Mike Kafka on this list? The offensive coordinator for the New York Giants? Really? Are we really doing this? This is like a Matt
I
Eberflus.
forgot. I forgot where he was before. I forgot. People like I don't know. I agree with you. I'm not saying. I
Drew
agree. This
Petzing.
yes. The Cardinals offense is not that good.
The why is David Shaw on here?
Yeah.
The 7 names. Only 7 names that need to be on here. Realistically, Mike Vrabel, Ben Johnson. I wouldn't mind Mike McCarthy, interview. Um, Brian Flores, Aaron Glenn, if you want to do the defensive, coach route or whatever. They're the 2 best defensive coordinators in football right now. So of course you got to throw them in there. Pete Carroll might as well. You know what I'm saying? Because he's a seasoned coach. The one thing I will say though is that Ryan Poles too in his interview with ESPN 1000 stuff like that during the press conference, he did not rule out a trade for a head coach either. He said that he's not that has not been taken off the table. The names out there. There's this Kevin O'Connell story kind of came out of nowhere. It was pregame saying that because he hasn't gotten a contract extension with Minnesota that his name's been up there with trade candidates in
I
terms of head
honestly, I
coaches.
think it's more likely that Kyle Shanahan gets traded than Kevin
Yeah,
O'Connell.
Kyle
He's
Shanahan.
about to get his bag.
Kyle
Um,
Shanahan's a name, and so is Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin's name has been thrown out there. The guys on Sportsman like in the morning, Chris Canty, Evan, whatever his face is, and that Michelle chick. They've been, throwing out the, if Mike Tomlin's one and done in the playoffs again, maybe they just decide to part ways amicably, and stuff like that. But 13 names plus however many
You
other
didn't say
head
your
coaches
seventh.
potentially. You know what I'm saying?
You didn't say your seventh coach. I wanted to see if we had the same because I wrote 7 names down while you were.
Oh,
But
you wrote 7 names down as well. I
yeah,
didn't really have seven. I just
okay,
had
you
three.
should. I put one on there that wasn't on there. Joe Brady. I don't understand why we're not
Well, they
requesting.
did it actually. They did request to interview him. I
He
forgot to
just hasn't
mention
gotten
that.
back.
Yeah.
Ben Johnson, we'll say, he only has accepted 2 interviews so far, the Bears and the Patriots. So that they haven't scheduled it, but he made it clear that he was only accepting interviews for jobs he was going to take.
Yep.
Um, Antonio Pierce got fired.
Yep.
Gerard Mayo got fired.
Yep.
That makes things interesting because Tom Brady's working with the Raiders. So he's plugged in. If anybody can pull a coach in, I think Tom Brady's probably got the most pull. I mean, I'm not saying that's the end all be all. I'm just saying like connections to Vrabel. Pats obviously fired Gerard Mayo. That makes me think they want Vrabel. I don't understand the Gerard Mayo firing. I'm not the type to make this a race thing. It just seems like this always happens to black coaches. Like I like for the life of me, I don't understand what you fired Gerard Mayo for. Like
Well, that's not necessarily true. I mean, Nathaniel Hackett was a one and done coach.
he was terrible though on a decent team. They had a decent team. The Patriots were the worst team, like the second worst team in the league,
I
in the
I
middle of
don't
a rebuild.
understand. I don't understand the Gerard Mayo firing
The
either.
Hackett thing, I get. They sucked. They were
Um,
bad, and they were a
but
decent team.
we all know why Gerard Mayo was let go. We all know, and it has nothing to do with color. They just want they Mike Vrabel's their guy. That's Robert Kraft's guy. Um, they're you know what I'm saying that, and I get it. I understand it. It's unfortunate. Gerard Mayo didn't get an opportunity to really install anything that he wanted to do as a head coach. Um,
Well, I understand the business part. I'm just saying, Gerard Mayo in particular. Like, if you watch they had like a press conference where Robert Kraft like did a whole speech where he's like, "I drafted Gerard Mayo. We have a great relationship since day one." Like, he brought his family up. Like, just very weird. And it's like, I don't know. I don't like again. That's the type of thing where it's like I think I don't know if curse is the word or bad karma, but I think that's the type of thing that really just I'm like, is it because he won the game? Like I don't know. Like I don't understand. And to me, and then it's just another team that's going to take one of the guys we want. I think I would really like Vrabel. The consensus of Bears fans for the most part is Ben Johnson. I'm not so high on Ben Johnson. I'm not trying to shit on him. But I just like I don't know. And Mike McCarthy was very interested in me. You were talking to me about it, and it's just like I was actually arguing with somebody about it because they were like, "Oh, you guys are idiots for getting McCarthy." And I looked up coaches with a better win percentage than Mike McCarthy and have a Super Bowl ring. 5% chance that a coach does that. There's only 32 coaches in history with a better winning percentage than him.
well, here's another thing too on the Mike McCarthy train. Like I get it. You know what I'm saying? There's not a whole heck of a lot of head coaches that actually I don't even know if there's any that have won multiple Super Bowls or won a Super Bowl with multiple teams. I don't think there's a coach out there that's ever done that. So obviously, and then this will be Mike McCarthy's third team.
Yeah.
And head coaches that, coach for a third team, NFL team that get their third chance at, coaching historically just don't do well.
I
And
don't.
I think
Yeah. I don't know if
and I
third
think,
chance is the word though.
in terms of history, repeating itself, that just kind of seems to be what, kind of deters people away from, especially Bears fans, from a name like Mike
Well, they're
McCarthy.
trying to skip a step, and I think this
You
is
know
what
what
I
I'm
was talking
saying?
about with Caleb, where they're like, "Oh, I want to win a Super Bowl. We need to be making Super Bowl moves," and I'm like, Of course, there'd be a dream for the Bears to win a Super Bowl, but I think we're skipping steps in the process and thinking like, oh, we can't have McCarthy because he chokes in the playoffs. It's like we don't even get to the playoffs. Can we worry about our coach choking in the playoffs when we start? Like it becomes a thing where we made the playoffs 3 years in a row. Like,
I get it.
and I think he's
And
just
you and I,
stability. I think he's a
yeah,
guy who knows what he's doing. He's going to hold guys accountable. We heard all year for whatever if it was Eberflus, if it was Waldron. the leadership council or whatever, they were just saying that Bears players weren't taking it serious. And we need somebody at the top who's gonna take the arrows for Caleb, one thing, not throw him under the bus, not point fingers at people, and hire some good coaches. And I think guys like McCarthy and Vrabel, they've been in the league a long time, and they know who the good coaches are. Like you know what I mean, the ones that other people might not want. They've got connections with guys who might come be the offensive coordinator for him when they might not want to come be Ben Johnson's offensive coordinator when they're 15 years older than him and have 15 more years of experience than him. I
Yeah,
think
like I said,
that's
I
going to
wouldn't.
come into play with Ben Johnson, where it's like guys like Ben Johnson right away is like, does a very good veteran defensive coordinator want to come? You know what I mean? Be some fucking young coach's sidekick?
Here's the thing. This is where you and I are going to disagree. I absolutely think somebody would because Ben Johnson's going to be the offensive play caller, obviously, and you're big on Vrabel. I'm big on Ben Johnson, so I understand where you're coming from with the culture fit and just wanting to have a guy that's been there before, proven commodity, and I understand that. But a guy like Ben Johnson coming into Chicago, of course, we don't know how he's going to be as a head coach. We just don't. But if you're talking about, a defensive coordinator, that's somebody that you would think a defensive coordinator would want to work for because he's not going to really meddle in your defense, in the defense. He's going to be focused on, the whole thing as, a head coach, but mostly the offense. And you have all the eyes on you. And on top of that, you have the security. So with it being a young, coach, you're at least getting 3 years as you know what I'm saying,
I don't
as
agree
a
with
coach
that.
in that. And on top of that, you take a look at some of the things that Ben Johnson brings to the table, and you and I will agree to disagree on this all we want. The most important player on that franchise is Caleb Williams, and that's not
I don't
debatable.
disagree with that. I don't disagree
Well,
with
hold
that.
on,
I just yeah.
I know, but so the most important player on that team is Caleb Williams. The most important thing to that organization should be the development of Caleb Williams. So you need an offensive coach to pair with Caleb Williams. Now, Mike Vrabel and Pete Carroll and Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy would probably be the offensive play caller as well, and he does have a proven track record with quarterbacks, which is why, like I said, I wouldn't mind a Mike McCarthy hire. But guys like Mike Vrabel and Pete Carroll and stuff like that, could they bring a guy on their staff that would work with Caleb Williams? Probably, absolutely. But if he does that in 1 year, he's gone the next because he's going to be the new hot offensive coordinator hire in the league that's trending with young offensive coordinators in particular to take over and be the next Sean McVay. So with Ben Johnson, you don't have that issue. Ben Johnson's the play caller. Ben Johnson's the offensive coordinator. Ben Johnson's the head coach. You sign Ben Johnson to a 4-year coaching contract. You have Ben Johnson working directly with Caleb Williams for 4 years. You don't have a risk of an offensive coordinator coming in under Mike Vrabel or Pete Carroll or any of these other guys and leaving after a year or two. You
I
don't
see
have
that,
that.
but you do have the risk that he's just not good, and it was the Lions' offense.
I don't think he's gonna. I don't think he'll be
I,
bad for Caleb. Maybe
I'm
he
what
may
I'm.
be a bad head coach, but he's not going to be bad for
But how do you
Caleb.
know either? He didn't groom Jared Goff. Jared Goff played with
What?
Sean
What?
McVay. We saw Jared Goff do play elite with Sean McVay. That just shows he does what he's told. I'm not saying like I don't think I'm going to credit Ben Johnson with Jared Goff. He was good on a different team. He went to the Super Bowl on a different team with a worse offense than this team.
With a worse offense.
Worse talent around him. He didn't have
You and I are gonna. There's no way. The entire league and everybody else was like Jared Goff's not it. Jared Goff's not it. He's a product of Sean McVay's system. He's a product of this. He's a product of that. He
yeah,
goes to
agreed.
Detroit. He goes to Detroit, and now all of a sudden, now that he's good, now you want to be like, oh well, hold on, he was good on another team. You can't
No,
have it both ways.
no, I'm not saying what I'm saying is I wasn't everybody. I still say Goff isn't. I think he's a little overrated now. I think he does have a good coach. But I think he's proven that
It's not Ben Johnson.
Well, I'm just saying, was it not Sean McVay then? It was Jared Goff. Like, who was it then?
But you just said he's overrated, and but you think he's got a good coach, but it's not Ben Johnson. Like
I do think Ben Johnson's a good play caller. I'm just saying, like, who's to say that like he doesn't have a track record of like getting these guys who weren't able to play good at all to play good again. Jared Goff had a down year and a half, and the Rams moved on from him for a better Hall of Fame quarterback. Not like they just drafted a rookie. They directly traded him for an upgrade. They didn't were like, we're done with you. We're gonna, you know what I mean? We're gonna try Joe Milton out, or we're gonna go with, you know what I mean? And sometimes that happens. Baker Mayfield got injured, had a bad year or two. The league was down on him. Sam Darnold's damn near fucking MVP. So I don't know if that's not an indictment. What I'm saying is like, I don't. What do you mean? Like, I don't agree that he has a track record of like making these guys way better. Like, yes, Goff is playing pretty good, but I've seen Goff seen Goff playing a Super Bowl.
Goff is playing MVP level football after the entire league pretty much discarded him and threw him away, just like Baker Mayfield and everybody else. Everybody else gets credit. Liam Cohen gets credit for
I'm
fucking
giving
Baker
Ben Johnson
Mayfield.
credit. I'm just saying, like, I don't
But
think
you're not.
You're
You
saying like he's
literally
got a
just said
track.
you don't know.
You're saying he's got
I
a
said
track
he's got
record.
a track record of calling plays because he's been running the offense. The
Well,
same
that part's
offense
good,
for
yeah.
3
And I
years.
think Jared Goff is elite at following what the like a great game plan that a guy designs up, and he does that well.
And would he
But I
not
don't
do that
know.
for Caleb as well?
Like I said, I don't know if it's going to be the same. He doesn't have the same O line. He doesn't have Jared. Caleb isn't Jared Goff. I mean, he's not gonna. It's. I don't know. Like maybe Caleb doesn't listen as well as Jared Goff does.
So then hold on. So what did Mike Vrabel do after Arthur Smith left Tennessee?
I can't remember. I couldn't tell you.
He didn't do
What
shit.
what I'm saying, well, they were always also a bad team. Like they just kept.
So the Bears.
Yes.
So why would you? So
What I'm saying is like
he wasn't
even
able to turn around. He wasn't able to turn around a bad team. He had Arthur Smith, Derrick Henry, AJ Brown.
he was able to turn them around.
Granted, no, he wasn't. After AJ
It's only going to the
Brown got traded and Arthur Smith left, they were mediocre. They were middle of the pack.
But I don't think we're a mediocre team. I think we have a way better team than the Titans had post AJ Brown. I think we have a better team than that on defense.
Supposed to.
I'm just saying on paper, but that's what I'm saying. I think a coach might be able to get that out of them. And to go, you're saying it's like I understand what you're saying that he might leave if we have a good offensive coordinator. But that's why I want somebody with a culture where it's like you hire. I said this the last couple of weeks. You hire a good offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, running back coach, wide receiver coach. They're all learning from this good OC that you hired. And when he gets fired, you upgrade him. And when you get fired, you upgrade him. Like that's.
But you don't have to do that with a guy like Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay. That's what we're hoping for in Ben Johnson. But you don't have to worry about that stuff.
But what I'm saying is like I think that's like somebody being that good.
There's more of them in the league now. There's more of them in the league now than there is coaches like Mike Vrabel.
I was just looking like these guys who are supposed to be these wonderkins who are going to turn Mike McDaniel. Whoop-de-doo. He's worse than Mike McCarthy. His teams are worse than Mike McCarthy's. Sean McVay had one Mike. Yes, that
Matt LaFleur, Kevin O'Connell, Kevin Stefanski.
What
all these guys. What?
What have they done? They're not winning anything. They're one and dones in the playoffs. Most of them. Besides Kyle Shanahan,
you can't do it. Well, Kyle Shanahan's one and done.
Kyle
Shanahan's been to multiple Super Bowls.
No, I've said except Kyle Shanahan. They're all one and done.
Kevin O'Connell, you credit Kevin, you credit Sam Darnold and coaching and everything else like that. Look what he's done with Sam Darnold.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
Matt LaFleur has been nothing but it's been nothing but consistent.
But that's every coach.
Took the Browns to the playoffs with Joe Flacco coming off the fucking couch.
Okay, what I'm saying is the Matt LaFleur thing. I think he's good, but that's an organizational thing. He worked for them, and they upgraded him, right? Like,
no.
And the Matt LaFleur
was not working for the Packers. That was
McCarthy. Right? That was McCarthy and Holmgren, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but either way, like they're all. When was the last time the Packers had a bad coach that had a worse record than Matt LaFleur? None. Matt LaFleur's like one of the worst coaches of the not one of the, but like Matt LaFleur's worse than McCarthy was. Like that's just the Packers. They're a well-run organization. They draft well. They hire well. Like I think that's a cultural thing where like, and we need to fix where like you said, like this coaching thing is bananas. Like 20 head coaches. Why are we questioning? Like what is this a shell game? Are we trying to trick people? Like are we trying to trick somebody? Like
I told you weeks ago when we talked about this. How it starts from the top down. And I told you that the McCaskies, and here we go again with fucking Curious George, the dumb fucking monkey that wants to sit here and be like, oh, yeah, no, I'm going to be part of the coaching search committee too. Why? You haven't
what I want to tell you why I think his mom or whatever they want. They
I
want a
told you,
spy in there. They want a spy
I
in there.
told you, it starts from the top up, Sean. This shit's not going to get fixed. And on top of that, he goes, well, what did he say? He said something fucking stupid. He says something stupid all the time anyway, but he said,
He was talking about that the fans like he didn't care about
the,
the chanting about selling the team, but that we were so
the,
bad that
he said that the organizational hierarchy isn't going to change. So the coach is going to report to Ryan Poles. Ryan Poles is going to report to Kevin Warren. Kevin Warren's going to report to him. And that's the way it's going to be because that's the way that the Bears do business. And that's the way that they do it in
isn't
that
that most
building.
teams though?
No,
Most teams
when you have a head, look at as dysfunctional as the Giants are. Brian Daboll still has an open door to John Mara. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, but
That's
I
how
don't know. I'm just talking about the ones that are. I don't
But
know.
see, that's the thing. That's the thing is
I feel
that
like if you hire right, that would be fine. Like the
you
problem is they
can't
don't hire right. Like
you can't consistently say that and be like that's the way that's the Bears way. That's the way we've always done business. Well, that's the way. That's the reason why in the last 25 years you haven't won a fucking playoff game.
well, I'm just
Like
saying like there's. I understand what you're saying that's bad, but I just think a lot like more than half the owners operate that way where they meddle. The Bears, we just are Bears fans and we see it every. This is kind of like what I was saying with the offensive line debate thing, or like, yes, we think. I don't think I know the Bears offensive line sucks, but I don't watch every Jags game, so comparatively, I don't know how shitty their line is, and I think that's the same with owner. Like the Jags have terrible ownership. I just watched an interview with Tony Khan where he had Trent Baalke, the GM, on with
yeah,
him, and he
yeah,
said if the coach doesn't like him, I'm going to fire him. Like, it does
yep.
that seem like some functional shit? Like, a lot of the teams operate like that. Some of the good ones, they don't have to, but that's because they're good. Like, the Cowboys are good sometimes, and Jerry's still meddling. Like, and again, I'm not happy with the McCarthy you're doing. I just think that's not this out of the ordinary. I just think something's got to give this time where they hire the right guy. Like, the last few have just been bad picks. And I,
Because they want a cookie cutter fucking coach that's a yes man. How many times? How much do you
I think
have to
that's what
see it
Ben
before you
Johnson is,
understand
though.
it?
I think Ben Johnson is that.
Are you? Oh, come on.
I think he's cookie cutter. Like, what
Oh
does
my.
he do? He's not an outspoken type of guy. You don't think he's a yes man?
No,
I
I
don't know.
don't.
I just feel
I
like he's
don't.
never said anything that's
I
rumbled
don't
any
get that
feathers.
vibe from Ben Johnson at all. Hearing him speak, because I've listened to a lot of the press conferences, a lot of the interviews, stuff like that. Because we, as Bears fans, we should get to know at least some of these coaching candidates. We know the names, but we don't know the people, right?
I mean, I heard him talk. I don't know. I didn't take him as
There,
like,
he's not a Matt Nagy. He's not a John Fox. He's not. You know,
I don't know. I don't think
the
John Fox
McCaskies
was.
want somebody who is going to be no swearing, church going. You know, let's do things the right way, guys. We're all going to be pals and be best friends and all get along. And I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, so I'm not going to hold anybody accountable. That bullshit needs to stop. And until things change at the top, that's how it's always going to be. Why do you think there's 15 names on here? I guarantee you the 7 names that that we want or whatever. I I will bet dollars to donuts. I want to be a fly on that fucking wall during these interviews where George McCaskey has a hard on for these fucking guys that just sit there quietly. Yes, sir. No, sir. Absolutely, sir. Like, that's what George McCaskey wants. And it can't be that way. You need a guy who's going to come up there, put a boot up your ass, light a fire under the ass of ownership, the front office,
And
Kevin
you
Warren,
think Ben
Ryan
Johnson's
Poles.
that guy?
Absolutely.
I don't think
How can
so.
you be working with Dan Campbell for 3 years and not have that pick up and rub off on you just a
I
little bit?
would I would say
There
that
is no
I would
way.
just say you don't have to because he does it.
There's no, but
He does that
you
for
don't
you.
watch that for 3 years, see how well it works, and be like, yeah, no, I'm not
Yes,
there.
but is that going to get in the way of him doing what he does best, being the mad scientist and drawing up the plays?
I don't think so. He's
That's
a
the part.
very smart he's a
They
very,
all
very
are. They all
smart guy.
smart. Like Matt Eberflus isn't a dumb guy. So like
No,
I don't
Matt
know what.
Eberflus isn't a dumb guy. He was just in over his head. But I don't think Ben Johnson is that kind of guy.
But
I
that's just.
really
But
don't.
again, I'm just being honest. That's just wishful thinking. We don't know. Like it's just as likely he's in over his head as he's Kyle Shanahan. Probably more likely. So that's all I'm saying. And I'm not, that's no shade against him. That's just reality. Like I said, I looked up a lot of coaching stats today. Like we talk about Mike McCarthy, like people talk about Mike McCarthy like he sucks. And there's only been 32 coaches with a better win record than him. Like in the history, there's been like 700 NFL head coaches. So it's tough to be like, he's just going to be that good. Like more than likely, he's going to be mediocre or worse. That's just the reality of it. And like I said, I would prefer to get somebody who's above average, and I know, and then maybe we're not going to win the Super Bowl in the next 5 years. than somebody who
That's small
has the
thinking,
potential.
though. That's
I
so
don't know.
small.
I just think we have to
We
take
talk
baby
about all the
steps. We're
time. We
worried
talk about
too
all the
much.
ultimate goal. We talk about it all the time. The ultimate goal is a championship. If you're not in it to win a championship, why are you even in it?
But I don't think this is football. You can't just go from the worst team, one of the 10 worst teams in the league the last 3 years in a row, to a Super Bowl team. Like
Your
that's the
goal, your goal
what are the
with
Lions?
a
What's it been for the
with
Lions?
with a rookie
Was it
quarterback
three
or a head
years?
coach, huh?
If the Lions, was it been 3 years? Now they're a Super Bowl contender. What did it take the Chiefs?
They were a Super Bowl contender last year.
I
No,
don't know.
after year two.
I
After
don't know
year
about
two and a
that.
half. Sorry.
But I don't know about that. But I don't think anybody thought they were going to Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl.
No, no, you were one of the only ones that didn't. You just don't like Detroit.
I don't like any of these teams. But I lost my train of thought. But yes, like we're skipping steps where it's like we have sucked for like what are the odds? Like we're not just gonna go from worst to first. Like that doesn't happen in football. It took Andy Reid. I mean, they were good for some years, but until they broke through this hill, it took 3, 4, 5, 6 years. Like this shit just doesn't happen unless like if you get a slam dunk coach, it could. And maybe Ben Johnson is him or Eric Glenn, whoever. Like John, we saw John Harbaugh come across and you know what I mean? He turned Michigan around, he turned the 49ers around, Stanford, San Diego State. He turned around the Chargers in 1 year. Like again, I don't think anybody thinks they're going to win the Super Bowl this year, but nobody really wants to play them. That's going to be a tough game because you know they're going to play good defense and run the ball. And next
They'll
year,
win. They'll win this weekend.
yes, and next year after another offseason, another draft, they probably will be you know what I mean, one of the top 5 favorites to win it. And maybe like I said, I was banging on the table for Jim Harbaugh. I don't see that in Ben Johnson. I think he's a mad scientist, and I don't know if that always correlates to you running the team. And as much as you might say, oh, Dan Campbell rubbed off on him, I think that, like I said, Dan Campbell doing all that gives him the freedom to be himself.
I don't. I also don't. I don't think that Mike Vrabel is John Harbaugh. Mike Vrabel has not had the success that John
No,
Harbaugh has had throughout his entire career. So
no,
I
I
think
think
going,
John Harbaugh is better.
I think saying, oh, I think saying, and I'm not saying it's you that's saying it. There are a lot of people out there that are saying, oh, we should, hire Mike Vrabel because look what John Harbaugh is doing in Los Angeles. It's two completely different things.
Yes.
Two completely
I think
different things.
John Harbaugh also is a quarterback, so he can help with that. And man, he's kind of like the quarterbacks coach and runs the team, and then he hires well. Jim Harbaugh, hit John Harbaugh as well, but they hire amazing, and that's what I like about Jim Harbaugh as well. We're like look across the league at like fucking a lot of guys that work for Jim Harbaugh. Jim and John switch guys all the time, like. Jim Harbaugh or John Harbaugh's defensive coordinator, from last year was John Harbaugh's defensive coordinator for Michigan, and Marty Winkdale was fucking John. But that's one of those things. I don't think Vrabel will be him. I think Vrabel gives us the best chance to be a 9 to 10 win team next year. I don't like I said, Ben Johnson, who knows? He could be great and we could be amazing, but I think we have a lot more problems than like, oh, just turn the offensive around and everything's just gonna be
No,
hunky
because
dory.
there's roster holes that need to be filled
Yes.
too.
And like I
And
said, he doesn't have the O line he's got in Detroit. He doesn't have. I don't know. I guess besides Jameer Gibbs, he doesn't have the 2 headed beast in the O line. I guess we have similar caliber wide receivers. I'd say.
and see, and that's the thing too, is that with a guy like that, obviously you're getting a defense that is better suited to the talent around you. And I think Ben Johnson offers that, but at the same time too, taking a look at the offensive line. So the offensive line, I was kind of taking a look back, and I kind of looked at some things throughout the entire season. The offensive line is horrible. Don't get me wrong. Um, but it's not 68 sack bad.
no,
Yeah,
it was
it was
a unique combination of rookie quarterback who's he's just a playmaker, and I
hero
think that's
ball
where the
and
disconnect was. And
yes. So the offensive line does need to be upgraded this offseason. That's a non-negotiable. Same thing
yes,
with the defensive line. And the Bears have the draft capital to do that. Now, Ian Cunningham also interviewing for some open GM positions. He turned down a couple last year. Of course, if he does get hired, we get an extra third round pick this year as well as the third round pick next year. Um, Lots of openings. I know the Jets are looking for a GM, head coach. The he's interviewing for Tennessee's open GM spot because they just fired their
yeah.
GM this morning, and I'm sure there's going to be more GM openings throughout the league where Ian Cunningham could possibly interview for those and get those positions as well. Matt Nagy was on the list of interview requests from the New Orleans Saints. Aaron Glenn is their number one, and from what I understand and from what I hear, Matt Nagy's their 1A.
I
So
don't mind. Like looking back now, I think Nagy wasn't that bad. I just think he can't have an ass quarterback. Like and against nothing against Mitch, I liked him. He tried his hardest. I just think if you did give Nagy somebody who was decent, I don't think like we were in it and it was bad and it felt bad, but then like we got worse. So it's like it could be worse. You could have somebody fucking worse than that. And Saints are in transition anywhere. They have to suck for like the next 2 years. They
yeah,
can't.
and how about the Giants retaining both Joe Shane and Brian Dayball?
I don't know. Like I don't know. I guess the good thing the owner likes you, but I guess have they been drafting bad? I guess the Danny Dimes thing and the Saquon thing really are just fireable offenses. Like you botch that, so you pay Danny Dimes, and you're like, oh, we're not paying Saquon, and Saquon goes on to almost break every record, and Danny Dimes you cut in the middle of the year, which is just crazy. Then the fucking Jagaloons win these games.
Yeah, I can't believe they won.
It's like, what is happening? Like, I don't know. This is very interesting end of the season. Um, And like this coach is there's so the Raiders, the Pats, the Saints, the Bears, the Titans. No, not the Titans. Yes, the
No,
Titans.
the Titans don't have a coach opening. They still have Brian Callahan. So right now, as of right now,
But
it's
they
the
fired their
Patriots.
GM, so their GM's going to keep Brian Callahan. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Right now it's the Jets, the Patriots,
Oh
the
yeah,
Bears,
Jets. That's what it was.
the Raiders, the Jaguars, the Saints. I think that's it right now.
Jags is an intriguing one. They got a weird front office too, so it might shy people. Like I said, Tony Khan's a weird guy. Trent Baalke, I don't know how he still has a job.
And
He
it's not
pat
Tony Khan, it's Shad Khan.
or Shad
Shad
Khan.
Khan,
Sorry,
yeah, Shad
Tony's
Khan's
his son,
Tony,
right?
yeah, Tony's the son. He's the one
Who
that
runs
owns
AEW?
AEW.
Yeah, sorry, that's what.
Yeah,
But
he's a
so
fucking weirdo too.
yes, I'm sure he'll be running the Jags sooner rather than later. But that'll be an interesting one. Like I said, they have pretty weird owners who always have their hand in there a little in a different way than McCaskey's. But that's a job. I'm guessing Ben Johnson's going to take an interview for them. They got Trevor Lawrence, young quarterback with some potential.
They haven't
Yeah,
even put in a request to interview him.
that's interesting. I wonder who they have in mind. So like you said, Vrabel for you, I'm leaning, or you said Ben Johnson. I like Vrabel. I think Vrabel's not going to happen. I think Vrabel's going to be either the Patriots or the Raiders. Even though we're interviewing tomorrow, if we're good, he wouldn't leave. But they set up 20 fucking interviews, so I
Well,
don't
you also
imagine.
got to satisfy the Rooney rule, and that's
Yeah.
in person. And Thomas Brown does not count because he's an internal guy.
So what? Brian Flores counts. Aaron
Yes,
Glenn. Well, they've already got one scheduled. Oh, that's a
it's got to
Zoom.
be in person.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm a fan. I like Brian Flores too. I think he had a bad go around with just Tua though, but it seemed like everybody else loved him. He he's a part of what the Vikings got going on right now too. I mean, Sam Darnold's been impressive, but the defense has been great. All his defenses were always great. I think he brings some culture, some attitude, and that's really what I want most back from the Bears. Like like you said, maybe it's thinking small. I should always be thinking Super Bowl, but I just think that there's steps we need to take before that's even something I can wrap my mind around. I don't think there's any coach out there, even if he was Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay, that next year is going to turn us around into a Super Bowl team, or even the year after that. Honestly, I want the Bears to get back to doing shit the right way, playing hard, and if we make the playoffs every year, and maybe next year we win one game, or 2 years from now we win one game and lose, and next year we lose in the wild card. I think I would be content with that if we were out playing hard and things like that. And I'm just trying to be realistic because I don't think it's good to go in the coaching search thinking I'm only going to pick a guy who I think is going to fucking take. I mean, I know you're thinking Super Bowl, but I think they got to fix a lot of things in house before Super Bowl is an option. And I'm sure Ben Johnson's going to be great. I don't know. It's just an unknown. I don't know how he's going to lead the team, how he's going to hire, and things like that. I think Mike McCarthy. I don't know who worked for Vrabel, but I think Mike McCarthy pretty much hires well. His guys always, whoever works for him, gets hired somewhere else to do a good. Like I think he had Dan Quinn the first couple years, um, and things like that. but we'll see how it goes. Like I said, I wouldn't hate to have Ben Johnson. Like you said, I do agree. Caleb is the most important individual player we need to be trying to progress, obviously. But I don't know if that should be your number one concern. Maybe two. I think just fixing the culture and the organization, I think should be one. And then yes, Caleb, the next thing on the list. But I think we need to get. I don't want to be having reports all year of the guys aren't practicing hard. Like the leadership council. Like even when we were taking him with Justin, that shit wasn't happening. I think it was just known that like we were in a rebuild and we weren't good enough to compete. And yeah, sometimes Justin choked away games, but in reality, even if we would have won those games and made the playoffs, we would have just got the fucking shit kicked out of us.
I thought we were gonna make it an entire podcast without you bringing up Justin Fields. I
Well, I'm
really
just
thought
saying, and
we
I'm
were
trying not to,
so
yeah.
close.
And that, I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying, like, even before, like, even year when we were younger, when we were bad, it just like there wasn't reports coming out of like guys aren't practicing hard. We need to get shit in order in the locker room. Like that's like the organizational, the McCarthy shit. Yeah, we've been hearing about that forever. But it was concerning to hear like you said, leadership council. Like, and I didn't think it was such a big deal. And you did in the middle of the year. And it's like now I'm thinking about I'm like, yes, that's like stupid. Like we've never had to worry about some stuff like that. It's like and
Well,
some of
then on
it's
top of that, you're grown ass men, you're professional athletes. If you need to be held more accountable, then that says more about you as a player than it does
I
about
agree,
somebody's.
but then we need a GM and a coach who weeds these guys out. Then, like, I
It's
agree with that thing
absolutely.
because I do think a lot of this gets pinned on coaches, but it's a lot of the players too. Most of the time, like I think the O line's bad. I think things could have been better, but when you see the metric, oh, Caleb didn't throw an interception in the red zone, nobody's like, oh, that's coaching. That's coaching right there. Nobody says that, but like fucking when he got sacked 68 times, that was the coach's fault. So I do think the players do skate accountability a lot of the time. Where when they're good, it's them. When they're bad, it was the coaching. And I think the Bears got to rest on that this year, and I think they need to bring somebody in where I don't think that's an option for them. I think the world will know if we have Rabel or somebody where like if you guys aren't playing well, it's just like you just suck. Like there's no Eberflus was holding me back. Shane Waldron didn't know what he was doing. And yeah, just some accountability around the building. And honestly, I haven't been Caleb's biggest fan, but he was he showed us what his floor was, and that's pretty darn good. So I don't think we necessarily need some wonderkin offensive coach who's going to draw up some magical plays for him to be perfect. I think with some stability on the O line and a commitment to the run game, I think he'll be fine. I think, like I said, maybe he won't be a top 10 quarterback or the MVP, but I think he showed with pretty shitty coaching that he was okay. I mean, if they stopped throwing so many damn screens and just dumb shit, like how many screens were in that Packers game? Like
Uh,
we thought it was get like what is going on? Like first we thought it was Getsy, but then it was Waldron too, and then it was Thomas Brown. It's like I don't like they're they that worried about the old line, like just I don't know. And it's just going to be a lot of speculation. I hope the Bears get this over with quickly. Unfortunately, we can't
I
interview Ben
yeah, I
Johnson
was
soon, so I guess
around.
like I said, I wouldn't mind Pete Carroll, Mike McCarthy, Mike Vrabel. I think those guys hire well. I think they'll have the balls to tell the McCaskies and Ryan Poles and whoever they have to what the fuck has to happen, and how it's going to be done. And like I said, maybe I haven't got that impression. I won't pretend like I've seen 100 Ben Johnson press conferences. I've only seen the guy a couple times. He looks like a cookie cutter white
I
guy to
haven't
me.
seen 100 of them, but
I'm
I
not
have
saying
seen
100. I'm just
enough.
saying like I haven't seen. I just meant I haven't seen more than maybe two, and one of them was a soundbite. So it's like I don't know. He just gives me like I don't know, like kind of like
Look
a
it up.
nerd. Yeah, I
Look it
will.
up.
I am again. I just I think like I said that Dan Campbell gives him the freedom to do a lot of that stuff. Um, and that's not a bad thing. And I don't know if having to be the head coach and worrying about everything instead of your quarterback in the offense is going to get in the way of what he does best, or if our terrible O line it doesn't. You know what I mean? They run a lot of
Well,
exotic
see, that's the
stuff.
thing too, is that I think he brings a lot of value to the scouting process as well for offensive line, because obviously your GM can't do it.
I think he was just trying to be too smart. I think he was like, "Oh, I was a late round pick, practice squad guy," and to be fair, I like Braxton Jones isn't that bad. I just think we watch a lot of the Bears games, so when he gets cooked, he gets cooked.
Darnell
Um,
Wright was the 5th rated right tackle in the entire league this year.
yes, and a
That's
lot of our guys weren't rated
that's
too
the
poorly.
only starter that's gonna be that should bring you
I
down
think
well.
Braxton Jones will be back. Will Campbell doesn't have long enough arms.
I'm not
Neither
saying
does
he
the.
won't be back, but he won't be a starting left tackle next year.
You don't think so? Who's going to be?
No, I think they draft somebody in the top. I think they draft somebody at number 10.
There's nobody in the top 10 who's going to be better than Braxton Jones as a rookie. That's what I
Uh,
don't like. Maybe in 2 years from now, but there's nobody in the Will or what's it Anderson,
Will Campbell
Will Campbell and was it Kelvin Jones or Johnson? I have to look it up from the Texas.
from Alabama.
Banks from Texas.
Oh, okay,
Um,
yeah.
there's short arm possible guards, and I don't think they're plug and play franchise left tackles. I think they'll have the same issues that Braxton Jones has, and he's a vet who's been on our team who will be practicing all off season with us. So I just don't see it like that. They're gonna. Last year there was a couple. I think Fashanu might have been better than Braxton Jones right off the bat. Obviously Joe Alt, but I don't see any of those guys this year where you're gonna for sure say they're better than a guy who's a quality starter for the last two
Yeah, and I
years.
don't think Abdul Carter falls to us at 10.
No, I don't think. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting draft, but we'll see because a quarterback. I don't think Drew Allers uh, announced if he's going to come out. A quarterback's going to rise into the top 10, so that'll give us one spot
Every year.
every year. And there's just too many teams who need one. Like the Browns, I don't know. Maybe if Deshaun Watson has a setback, the Browns need one. Titans, Raiders, Giants, um, everybody but the Patriots and the Jags really in like the top 7 need like kind of needs a quarterback. Hopefully we can trade down and get some even more assets. And I don't know. I'm just looking best interior lineman we can get in the late first or the early second, and maybe two of them. Like I said, I don't see a left tackle who you're gonna feel confident, honestly, say is better than Braxton Jones as a rookie. Like I don't. None of those guys are. I don't feel like Braxton Jones has been underwhelming. Is not the word because he's a 5th round pick. He could be better. He's not one of the best 15, but he's okay. But all right, that's this week. We got about 5 to 6 more weeks of talking about coaches, and more will come out. More of this clown show the Bears got going on. But thanks for keeping it. This is a long one, as long as we've done in a while. Like, follow, subscribe, please, if you lasted this long, and I'll see you next week, buddy. Where's my mouse?
This week.